What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the neighborhood. My name is Andrew Kimball, and in this video, we are talking about Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. Wo Long is the latest game from Team Ninja, the studio behind the Nioh games and Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. And if you've played those games, you'll probably feel right at home here. But Wo Long does a few things to separate itself from those titles and stand on its own. Let's get into it. I don't want it to sound like we're starting off too negative here, but the story isn't what I liked about this game. You play as a nameless soldier who must fight against countless monsters and demons in a dark fantasy version of the Three Kingdoms period of Chinese history. On paper, this is a promising setup. However, the story is disjointed and there are so many main characters that it's hard to follow anything except for the fact that there is a villain causing trouble and you're trying to defeat him. It's cheesy and forgettable, but the story isn't what I enjoyed about Wo Long. At the start of the game, you create your character, and shout out to the character creator in this game. I had a lot of fun with it, and it's one of the better ones I've seen. Then it's time to fight. Wo Long is an action RPG with an emphasis on action. You fight with a variety of melee weapons, with a few bows and throwing knives to give you a little bit of ranged capability. There are a few key mechanics that make this game unique. The first one I'll talk about is the spirit gauge. The spirit gauge is a bar at the bottom of your screen that fills up and turns blue as you attack enemies and successfully deflect their attacks. You can then use the spirit to cast wizardry spells and perform special attacks. On the other hand, if you're taking a lot of hits from enemies or failing to deflect, this bar will go down and turn orange. If you get hit when it is bottomed out, you'll be stunned and opened up to attacks from the enemy. This system provides a nice push and pull to the flow of combat that I really enjoyed. There's also the morale rank system. As you progress through the level, you're rewarded for exploring by being able to plant banners. Some of these banners act as resting points where you can save your progress and access menus to level up or adjust your wizardry spells. Others are solely there to lock in your morale rank. How this works is as you defeat enemies, your morale rank will increase. When you die, it will decrease. The boss at the end of the level has a morale rank of 20, and if you attempt to fight it with a lower rank, it will be more challenging. As you plant banners throughout the level, the amount your morale can decrease upon death is diminished. If you manage to find all of the banners, you will be on a level playing field with the boss, and your morale won't drop significantly if you die. The combat in Wo Long is all based around the deflection mechanic. Any attack an enemy makes can be deflected, and if done successfully, they will be thrown off balance, allowing you to get in some damage with your attacks. Enemies will also do a critical attack where they flash red and will hit for a lot of damage. If you successfully deflect these attacks, the enemy will often have their spirit broken, leaving them open for a critical attack. This is the core of the combat in this game. Sure, you can swing your various weapons wildly and brute force your way through some fights, but to defeat bosses and really get the most out of the game, you need to use deflections. The window for timing these deflections is quite generous, so it isn't that difficult to become proficient using them. Since we're talking about combat, this is a good time to mention a few things I think could be improved in Wo Long. First of all is the gear system. The gear system in this game is similar to Nioh, but I do think it is simplified and easier to understand here. That being said, I still think it's an unnecessary feature for the kind of game that this is. Various gear of different levels is constantly dropping, and once you decide on a build or a set that you like using, it just becomes a tedious task of dismantling and selling what you don't want or need. The loot system feels like something out of a live service game that was shoehorned in here, and it doesn't do enough to justify its existence. The other thing that comes to mind when thinking about areas the game could improve is the lack of enemy variety. You are fighting the same enemies in the final level that you fought in level 1. Sure, some early game bosses are now being used as basic enemies, but in general, there is an obvious lack of variety in the enemies. Combat is still fun and rewarding, but it would have been nice to see some new challenges as the game progressed. Outside of that and some uneven levels of difficulty, there isn't much else I have to say negative about this game. As a fan of action games, and especially from software games, I think Wo Long is a great place to start if you're new to this genre. When compared to games like Dark Souls or Sekiro, Wo Long is much less obtuse in explaining its mechanics and is much more helpful in aiding the player. The level design is pretty linear and straightforward, and while veterans of the genre may view this as a negative, I think it's great for new players. Along with that, you can play the game co-op with a friend or summon up to 2 NPC characters to help you at any time. The game also allows you to respec at any time for free, so you can try out new builds and weapons. You can also save any builds you make and have them ready for whenever you need them. Wo Long Fallen Dynasty gets a B on the Effin' Gamers review scale. It's a great action game with some really cool mechanics. The fun combat makes up for the terrible story, and I think it's a great place to start for new players who want to get into action games or Souls-likes. The unnecessary loot system, lack of enemy variety, and uneven difficulty keep it from being something truly special, but it's still worth trying to see if you like it. Have you played Wo Long Fallen Dynasty? What did you think of it? How does it compare to other games in its genre? Let us know in the comments. And if this happens to be your first action or Souls-like game, how was it? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to hear us dive deeper into Wo Long and other games, check out our podcast. That's all I've got for this video, so I'll leave you with a reminder to stay friendly, gamers.